Still working on it. All right, now we're saying we're live. The internet says that I'm live, so we're going to try this intro over again and say, Hallo Deutschlerner! Welcome to the first live stream that I have done in a really long time. Thank you for joining me tonight. It is 8 p.m. here in my time zone. I don't know what time it is that you guys are watching from your own, but yeah, we are going to answer some questions that my viewers have sent in over the last several weeks. I've been collecting them into a Google Doc that I have over here, so you'll see some of them there. I have a few of them that are in the live chat already that I have not put onto the Google Doc, but first I want to talk about, if you have not already seen this, I have a online course set up. It is the Deutschlerner Club, so the German Learner Club. Basically, it's because I say Hallo Deutschlerner at the beginning of every YouTube video, so I thought it was appropriate to call that the course that I do. If you go through the course page, you can go here and it'll give you information about what the course is. It's only $10 a month. It's 7 days for free, and then after that you would pay the $10 per month, or if you want to do the yearly subscription, it's $100 per year. If it's something you're interested in, check that out. There's a list of the things that are in the course, in the curriculum over here. All of those lessons are available for you. It's a full A1 and A2 course. And then there's also these things down here that are the bonus videos or bonus lessons. Basically in December of 22 is whenever I started the weekly bonus thing. And yeah, I started this back then, and whenever I did that, I basically took the things that I usually upload to my Patreon page, and I put them into this course over here, so you can see which videos I uploaded in December, and then that's been going on since December of 2023, or 2022, that is, and so I've been uploading those there, and you'll notice that the last one that's visible on your screen there is Als ich ein Kind war. That's the thing that I did last week. That's my last video that I uploaded to YouTube. And then underneath that, what you can't see is car vocabulary, and that is the next video that I'm actually going to be uploading, not this next week or even the week after that, but the following week after that, like three weeks out. That's where I'm going to be uploading this wonderful video where I'm talking about my truck and the parts of it. It's got a video script that's on there for every lesson that I upload like this, and then there's a worksheet and answer key on here, and you can comment down below each of the lessons. If you go to the previous lesson, this is the last one that I uploaded to YouTube that is currently live. Again, there's a worksheet on there as well as the script on there, and you can ask questions. Sometimes I go and I upload a extra video that goes along with each of the lessons that I'm doing. Sorry, I'm a little bit scatterbrained in my thoughts. Somebody said in the chat that the audio is a little bit weak, and I'm trying to see if there is a setting here in Streamlabs for that. Probably is, but blue snowball. Let's see, can we get the audio to go up? Bum, bum, bum. Alright, well, if there is a way to do that, it is currently as high as it goes. It's the only volume setting that I have here. Global settings. Also not helpful. All right, well, if you can't hear me, I'm sorry. That's about as loud as I can possibly get it. But I do have at least one person in the live chat who said that the audio is a little quiet. I'm sorry. I'll try and speak up. Anyway, so if you're interested in the Deutschlerner Club, again, it's free to start off. All right, cool. Sounds better. Cool, cool, cool. So anyway, if you're interested in the Deutschlerner Club, you can check that out on your own time. It's at courses.germanwithantrim.com, which I will leave down here in the live chat. So if anybody's interested in that, again, it's free for the first 7 days. Try it out. If you don't like it, you don't have to continue paying. In fact, you wouldn't have paid anything to begin with because 7 days are free. All right. Anyway, we have the AMA thing over here, which is the list of questions that I have compiled. I did a little bit more of a thorough answer for some of the more like older comments that are on here, but then I also have some newer comments that I just haven't had time to write out an actual answer to. So, in the meantime, the first one on here, I'm not going to try and pronounce that username, but there's a bunch of letters and some numbers in there. Basically, the question is, how do you master the articles of German words? How do you get this information of der, die, and das to actually stick in your brain and make any semblance of sense whatsoever? And I started to write a really convoluted answer for, rules for when things happen to do something, and then I remembered I've done this lesson twice. So I have a link here for the older video that I have is 2015, and I copy that link and put that into the chat. And then I also have this other one that is from 2017, so it looks like it could use an update, but the information in it is still relevant, still going really well, and can't really complain about any of that. I also have a blog post version of that over on my website, which I will also link in the live chat down there. But the main information that you need to get out of this, not the sponsored by Lingoda, that live stream is not sponsored by Lingoda. I haven't been sponsored by them in actually several years now. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there, but they haven't reached out for a sponsorship in a while. Anyway, so German nouns, they make no sense, but there are a few things that actually do help. First of all, masculine people are masculine and feminine people are feminine, so that's super helpful as long as it is like a male occupation. So you would have like der Arzt for a male teacher, or die Ärztin for a female, or no, der Arzt for a male doctor, die Ärztin for a female doctor, and there's male and female versions of each of the occupations that you're going to come across. So that seems to make sense. As long as there is a biological gender to the person, then we have the same matching one for der and die. Masculine people are masculine, feminine people are feminine. There is some other pronouns that you can use and other articles that you can use for people who are either non-binary or any of that kind of stuff, but that's not the lesson I'm doing today. For der, die, and das purposes, masculine people are masculine, feminine people are feminine, and keep it simple for now. You can make it more complicated if you want to. Confusingly, das Mädchen is a feminine person, but a neuter noun, and that comes from the diminutives of hen and lein. Both hen and lein are diminutives, meaning that they make things smaller. So we have an old German word Magd, which is basically like maid, and we took that word and made it into Mädchen, making it a smaller version of that. So instead of having a woman, you would have a woman who is smaller, also known as a girl. There is no version of that for men, so there is no Männchen or Männlein. Those are both words for dwarf or midget. So yeah, people don't use those. It's also the reason that no one uses the word Fräulein anymore, is because it's a diminutive. But there is no other word for girl, so we're just kind of stuck with this diminutive word of das Mädchen. But if you put hen or lein at the end of any other noun, it's also going to be a neuter noun. So we have things like Brötchen or Bettchen or Bäumchen or anything that you want, you can pretty much put hen at the end of it, and it's a small version of that. So a Hähnchen is a small chicken, an Entchen is a small duck, a Brötchen is a small bread, and so on. That seems to make a little bit of sense at least. Neuter nouns like that are really easy because those are always neuter without exception. There are other words that end in ismus, and those things are masculine, so that includes things like journalism, that would be journalismus, capitalism would be capitalismus, communism would be kommunismus. Things that end in ism in English are masculine in German and end with ismus, so seems to make sense. There's a list of words or word endings that I have on here for things that end in those endings. Those will all be feminine without exception. So that's Heit, Kite, Tate, Ung, and Schaft are the ones that you're probably going to come up with most often. There are also these IE, IK endings that could work as well. But yeah, it could be either way. Oh, look, Tango is donated to the live stream. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Thank you. And greetings from Costa Rica. So yeah, nice to have you aboard. Thank you. So these endings are all feminine. That helps. I have this video here that I posted. This video actually goes with the Smarter German YouTube channel. If you haven't watched his videos, this is a very old video on his channel, but it is a fantastic explanation of the endings and kind of signals that you can use for figuring out the genders of nouns. One thing that is super helpful for masculine nouns would include days of the week, months, seasons, and types of precipitation, and directions on a compass. So every one of the days of the week, they all end in Tag, with the exception of Mittwoch, and for that reason, we just keep Mittwoch as also masculine. But they all end in Tag, which is masculine, so that makes sense that all of the rest of them would be masculine. Months are also masculine. Der Januar, der Februar. It's not very often that you're going to need to say the article in front of a month, but if you need to, there is that article. So you could say like the February before my I don't know, before my surgery, if I had a surgery or something, then that would be der Februar vor meiner Surgerie. But anyway, all of the months, the seasons are on there: Winter, Frühling, Sommer, and Herbst. Regen, Schnee, Nebel, and Hagel are examples of types of precipitation. And then north, south, east, and west, and all of the things in between, those are all masculine as well. The last thing that I have on this article here is what happens if you just have to guess. If there are words that are not in these categories, the easiest way that I would say is look at the last several letters of the word. If it ends in ER, it's probably masculine. If it ends in E, it's probably feminine. If it ends in a consonant, it probably is neuter, but that's a really hit or miss answer. But the easy answer is memorize them as you see them. So I don't remember learning it's der Bus, but I do remember saying ich fahre mit dem Bus in German classes. And I remember that it's mit dem Bus, which tells me that it's either masculine or it's neuter because it's in the dative case. So I would use that kind of logic as like, okay, I know it's dame, so as long as I'm using it in the dative case, I don't have to care if it's masculine or neuter. But the rest of the time, I'm going to have to kind of see it in context. You could say something like, siehst du den Bus? Do you see the bus? That one's masculine and accusative, so it's den Bus. And it's a lot of exposure to the nouns rather than relying on it's der this and die das and das whatever other thing. It's easier for me to just recognize it as patterns as I'm seeing it in example sentences and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of a long-winded answer to the question, but basically der, die, and das have some endings that you can kind of go off of. There are certain categories of nouns that are always masculine, but if it really comes down to it, it's just a matter of memorize the nouns as you can, and try to get them out of context. So if you're reading an article in German, start to recognize these patterns of it says den, that means it's either masculine accusative or dative plural. If you see it says der, there are a bunch of different ways it could be der. Is it the subject of the sentence? That means it's masculine. Is it the dative object of the sentence? That is going to be a feminine noun. If it genitive case or something, that's going to be either feminine or plural. It gets complicated, but start to recognize those patterns as you're reading in German or listening to something in German, and start paying attention to that. And eventually it will start to come naturally, and I can kind of look at a word at this point and say, okay, well, that one's probably masculine, without ever have actually seeing that noun before, whatever that is. Second question that I have on here is the translation app on Apple products good? I can't specifically speak to the Apple products part of it because Apple products are a different beast entirely. It's not my personal choice. This here is a Google Pixel that I'm watching the live chat off of. So it's not my usual go-to thing. That being said, I can kind of speak to translation apps in general. Most of the translation apps are great for full sentences or for phrases or even paragraphs. If you want to take an article from something online in German and copy and paste it into Google Translate or Apple Translate or whatever it is that you're translating with, it probably will do a decent job as long as it has a lot of context to go with it. So it's not just one word, which is what the question was here. If you're doing one word to one word, it's much better to just use a dictionary app rather than waste your time finding the wrong word with a translator app. Translator apps were trained based on context. So they would take all of Wikipedia basically and read it, and then based off of that context, it reads how words interact with each other, and you can tell which word is supposed to be used in this context versus which word is used in that context, and it kind of was trained off of that kind of information. And because of that, it doesn't do well whenever it doesn't have context to go off of. So if I just type in the word go into a German dictionary, so let's go to dict.cc is one that I go to quite often. I use this quite a bit in my classes. I also use this for my video editing whenever I'm looking up a word or whatever. But let's just type in the word go, okay? First of all, there is the command form. There are a couple of different versions of this, including a Berlin dialect version. Not super helpful, but if you're looking for Berlin dialect, it has that on there as well. For this website is up there on the screen there, dict.cc. But it has a few of them up here for command form. We have los, gehe, geh, lauf. All of them would be good commands. I would probably just stay with los, because that's usually what people mean when it's a command. Underneath that, we have verbs, and there are a bunch of verbs that are listed as well, but in parentheses, it gives you context. So to go all by itself is just gehen. That's probably what you're used to seeing whenever you Google Translate go. But if you're driving in a car, so if I'm going by car, I would say ich fahre mit dem Auto. So even though I'm not the one driving it, I still use the verb fahren, which is incredibly confusing to German ones, non-German native speakers. There we go. The other one we have on here is sagen. Sagen means to say, but in English it's very common for us to say something like, and then I go, hey man, don't do that. Go in that context means to say, and so the translation here is sagen, because that would make sense in that specific context. Hingehen is to go somewhere. This is to go to that place, and that's specifically with the hin part in front of it. If this path goes to that place, you need the verb führen, which means to lead. So again, this is a lot of context, and in parentheses, this website will give you all of that information for context that you wouldn't have if you don't type in a full sentence for the translator app. If you want to do something like leo.org, leo.org is a good example of a dictionary app as well, but it works in several different languages. So there's German to English or English to German. There's Spanish and French and Russian and German to French, and then opposite directions and all kinds of stuff. But again, if I just type in go, it's going to come up with about the same stuff. It comes up with verbs first, gives you a little bit of no context whatsoever, but it gives you past tenses of stuff in both English and in German, gives you some other translations over here. I don't use this one as much as I use dict.cc, specifically because it doesn't give you the same thing as before in parentheses with the context. This one does have a little bit of context for, like, this one here, it says by train, that is fahren. This one is to go whenever you're talking about time passing. We have vergehen. We have to operate, or something goes like this, that's funktionieren, or to function. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get that context on this website. What I do appreciate from dict.cc and all the other dictionary websites that I'm going to talk about right now, if you push this little button,
Farm.
There are computer voices, and then there are also these usernames that will show up. The ones with usernames behind them are native speakers who just recorded their voice saying whatever that verb is. So, That's
fahren,
that's Joe 56, and then there is
fahren oder fahren,
that's Halma Felix as the username, and you can pick out whichever voice you want for the context here. They also have a female computer voice and a male computer voice that will help you with pronunciation, and I really appreciate that kind of thing. There's also this little info button next to it, and this will give you a bunch of different options for finding more information about something. You can Google that verb, or you can go to Wikipedia or the Wiktionary or Leo or other dictionary websites, including Duden. But anyway, it's a good website to go to for a long list of reasons. I do have a list of recommended dictionaries that I've been using for quite some time. There's a link in the chat now for that. But basically, dict.cc has been on the top of my list for quite some time. I used to use Leo a lot, but not as much anymore. Both of those are available as mobile apps as well. I have both of them installed on my personal phone. But I usually, again, default to dict.cc for all of the reasons I've mentioned before. But also, dict.cc has an offline version, which is super helpful. You basically just click a few buttons and download the offline version to begin with. And then whenever you're abroad, you don't have to use your data plan in order to use this dictionary app. So you can, stumble through a conversation if you need to and look up the right words for what you're looking for while in conversation in Germany. There's also the website Lingui, which I've been using for a while. I like this one because you search for a particular phrase or a particular verb or something like that, and it will give you context of examples of how that verb is being used on the internet, and it'll give you German and English side by side with the paragraph that it came from, and then a link to the website that they got it from, so that you can get more information about how it's being used within the context of that. And these are always from just random websites that they've scraped for all of their information. I love Lingui for a long list of reasons. I've been using it for my YouTube videos for at least 5 years now, looking up to make sure that I'm using a verb right, or that I'm getting it in the right context, or if I'm using this verb versus that verb. I can kind of hone into those smaller details, especially if you're like at that B1, B2, or plus, higher than that level. Lingui is fantastic for that. I do have lists up here for dictionaries that I would like if you actually want a paper dictionary, and of course links to Amazon on there are affiliate links, because of course they are. It's one of the few ways that YouTubers like me can make a little cash on the side. So yes, dictionaries. They are much better than most of the translation apps. The problem I have with translation apps is you can't trust everything that they do, and if you try to trust everything that they do, you're going to end up finding that someone else is going to be like, that's not the right word for that, or you're going to embarrass yourself at some point, and it's just going to be kind of awkward. I would prefer to put a full sentence into a translator rather than just one word or a couple of words, and so yeah, that's my advice for that one. If you were looking for someone to critique your German writing, what would you do? How would you do it? If you don't know enough German to know whether or not your language skills are any good, what do you do, and how can you get someone to critique you? I would actually not use someone, I would use something. And that something is, of course, the one that everyone goes to nowadays, and that's ChatGPT. I've been using it for a little while to get like variety in my sentence examples and stuff like that. So you may have noticed a difference in the way that I write some of my YouTube scripts. ChatGPT has been helping with that kind of thing. So in my upcoming video about car vocabulary, for instance, I just punched in, give me a list of 50 German words for car vocabulary, and it spits out this huge list in German and gives me the English ones off to the side. And I use that as kind of a starting point of like, okay, these are the words I need to make sure that I cover, because otherwise I would have overlooked things like rear view mirror, for instance. I wouldn't have thought to mention that in the video, but ChatGPT was like, oh yeah, you should put Rückspiegel on there. It's like, oh, that makes sense. I should probably mention that. Same thing for like I don't know, windshield wiper. I wouldn't have thought to put that on there to begin with. But anyway, so I've been using it for a variety of reasons for script writing. But if you're just a German learner and you want to try and figure out how to, test your German skills, take this little thing here and copy and paste it. It basically is a prompt that I use all of the time, and that is, you are a German native speaker and a university professor. Critique my German writing, check for grammar and spelling errors, make recommendations on how I can improve my writing and make it sound more professional. So start whatever it is that you're doing, hit Shift Enter a couple of times, and pull up whatever it is that you're going to copy and paste. So let's just go to wikipedia.org and let's go to the German version of it, and whatever the first thing on here is, it's apparently about an U-boat. So we're just going to copy and paste the first paragraph of that so that it has something on there, and we're going to delete the zum article that they added in there because I don't actually want ChatGPT to go back to that. But there's a bunch of things in here about sonar and blah, blah, blah. It's got a bunch of technical words in there. And I just hit send. And ChatGPT is going to come up and figure out, is this something that you could have written, or where you would have changed things around and that kind of thing. Now, it's going to spit out a new text, and I'm not going to read my text versus their text and look back and forth on it. That would be super unhelpful. So I would say instead, explain in English what you changed and why. So then it gives you a bulleted list of what it changed, why it changed it, and all of that kind of thing. So clarity and cohesion, it reconstructed some sentences, vocabulary and terminology, it got rid of some terms with better versions. I would say then, give examples of changes you made to point number 2. And then it's going to say, okay, well, here's the things that I changed out the vocabulary. So it gives you all kinds of fun stuff here. So it gives you the original and then the revised version of each of them. So why it changed things and all of that. It does come in handy if you're doing like smaller things. It does better than if you type in like an entire paper. I would instead do like a half a page and then do a little bit more rather than doing like the entire writing thing that you're doing and then punch it all in there, because it's just going to be overwhelming the amount of information you get back from ChatGPT. So do a paragraph at a time or so, and then get feedback on that and then move on to the next paragraph. AI is doing some fantastic things. There are great ways that you can use it for your own German learning materials and stuff like that. If you go to my YouTube channel, a while back I did a video about how to use ChatGPT. It's been a while ago. I don't know where it is in here. Yes, the one that says, have I been replaced? So this has been 6 months ago now that I did that video. But I'm going to copy that over here and then put that into the chat. If you're looking for more ways that you can use ChatGPT in your own learning, there's all kinds of examples that I gave in there. But yes, ChatGPT, I use it all of the time for all kinds of stuff. Second part of this question here was, what do I think about learning German while listening to music? And the answer is complicated. So I did a video forever ago about like things that your German teacher allows in class but probably shouldn't. And one of the things that I had on there was listening to music while doing work. And that's because at the time, I was talking specifically about studying for a vocab test. So if you're listening to music while studying for a vocab test, there are only 2 ways that this can really go. One, you're going to be distracted by the music and you're going to try and like hum along or sing along, which is usually how my brain works. So if I'm doing something and I have music in the background, I have less of a chance of memorizing exactly what that information was. It's great for doing like mindless tasks. If I'm editing like graphics graphics or something like that for a YouTube video, I listen to German music in the background, and I'll just kind of passively pick up the vocabulary and whatever's going on, and it's not a big deal there. But if I am trying to memorize a list of vocabulary or trying to memorize some lines for a YouTube video or something like that, I will never be listening to music during that, because my brain focuses too much on the music and not enough on the content that I'm working on. If you are one of those people, I strongly suggest not listening to German music, or any music for that matter, while you're studying for any German stuff. That said, there are some people whose brains kind of attach the music that you're listening to the information you're trying to memorize. And for those people, I would actually say, yes, it's a good idea for you to use the music that you're listening to as a mnemonic device of sorts to memorize the information. So I'm listening to I don't know, Ode der Freude for German music. It's joyful, joyful, we are joyful, da, 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 da. That song? Okay. Anyway, if you take that song and do it with any of the conjugation charts that your German teacher is ever going to give you, you can have like, ich habe, du hast, er hat, wir haben, ihr habt, sie haben. Anyway, the conjugation charts work really well with that song. That's a mnemonic device that you can use. You can use that with pretty much any song that you can think of, as long as there is a tune that you can kind of take the information on the page in front of you and put that towards the song. If your brain works like that, by all means, listen to German or listen to some classical music or something without lyrics while you're doing that. I don't really suggest things like techno or house music or anything like that. Anything that's going to be too high of energy, because that's going to end up kind of distracting you from what it is. You're going to kind of try and dance in your chair or something like that, and your brain is going to spend that much less energy on learning the content. Now, what I haven't talked about is learning German through music, which I've done on my YouTube channel for a really long time now. If you go over to the end of this little list of stuff here on my channel, you go to search and you would say Lied. Just type in Lied, it comes up with song. There are a bunch of different songs that I have that I've uploaded over the years. I've got children's songs for German, for normal kids, and then I have some stem changing songs. I've got playlists upon playlists of German songs for children, videos that aren't even my videos that are in playlists. Like these are here from Meister Lehnsherr or Vuko, Dominic, there we go, real name. But yeah, I have songs overall on all kinds of different topics there. And the reason behind all of that is because music can help you to work on pronunciation. It's great for helping you to memorize vocabulary easier. It's great for getting your cadence down. So if you're trying to work on like how you say things and getting your voice to sound more Germanic or sound more natural, those kinds of songs can really help out with that kind of thing. But that's one way that I would go about it. The other way is that I have seen, let's say, type in Nena. I've got a song over here that says In meinem Leben. I use this every year in my German 2 classes. My students are about to have this lesson here in about a week or so. But In meinem Leben is a song by Nena. The entire thing is written in the perfect tense, and it's a great way to practice some German verbs that need to be known in the perfect tense. If you're looking for that, there is this video that I did 7 years ago. So I've been on YouTube for way too long. That's what I'm getting at. But I have this video and I teach how to use the perfect tense through that song, and then you can reinforce the information from the grammar lesson while listening to that song. And In meinem Leben is fantastic for that. I also have I did a video about a song by Thomas Godoge. But if you just type in lyrical analysis, type in lyrical analysis, you'll find a bunch of them. I have an introduction, so basically how to use these lessons. And then I have one from Clouseau. I have another one from Clouseau. There's one here from Crow. There's the one that I mentioned before of Nena. And yeah, I even did one about Rammstein whenever their new album came out. I did a couple of those videos. And then I realized that Dave from Vlog Dave now is Definitely, but his channel is fantastic if you're looking for music tips and tricks and lyrical analysis and everything Rammstein related. Definitely is definitely worth checking out. So let's see, Definitely, something along those lines. Let's go to filter and channel. Where is Dave? Why are you not showing up? I've spelled your name wrong, Dave. Vlog Dave. He used to be called that. There we go. Deutsch mit Dave. Definitely. If you have not found this guy before, love Dave. He is awesome. His videos about German music are amazing. He's doing live streams all the time. He does shorts, and then he also does, like, he did a video about Peter Fox's new album. If you haven't seen Peter Fox, he's also fantastic. We have a video about Oomph, another video about Oomph, and all kinds of fun stuff. Dave is awesome if you're looking for German content that has to do with music. The fact that he only has 55,000 subscribers is an atrocity in my view. But Dave, check him out. And, you know, don't tell him that I gave him a shout out in this video. Just, like, secretly go over to hang out with Dave, because Dave's awesome. So yes, German music. Listen to it all of the time. So anytime that my students are doing work in class, I usually put German music on in the background. I listen to German music whenever I'm in my car, or I will listen to German music while I'm not, not doing anything that requires audio editing on my YouTube channel. I use German music pretty much any time that I am sitting around doing nothing for a extended period of time, or at least something that's not going to take my entire brain power to do, then I listen to German music. This does a lot of passive processing in your brain. Getting used to hearing just the sounds of what German sounds like is great for helping you with your pronunciation, but it's also good for, like, recognizing, like, oh, I remember that word. It was from this song that I remember. I always remember that ohne is an accusative preposition because there's a Rammstein song called Ohne dich. And it reminds me of several prepositions that I can use. So it says, ohne dich kann ich nicht sein, which is without you I cannot be. Mit dir bin ich auch allein, which is with you I am also alone. And that gives me mit dir, which is with you. So ohne dich, that one's accusative, and mit dir, that's dative. So prepositions from Rammstein songs kind of stick in my head. And yeah, it can work for you as well. So yes, use German to learn, but don't use German music while you're trying to do other things that require your brain power. All right, that was a long answer, but sorry. I use music a lot. Should you learn a near German language to be better equipped to learn German? So basically they're asking, I want to learn Danish and I also want to learn German. Should I learn Danish first and then German? I think this is actually exactly backwards. So German is the base language that will help you to learn Danish, or to help you learn Dutch, or to help you learn languages that are Germanic languages. So I would actually start with German and then move towards those other languages if you want to learn those after you have learned German, because German is the more difficult of them, and it would probably be easier for you to learn them after you have learned German and not the other way around. If you start with Dutch and then you go to German, it's just going to confuse you because there are fewer grammar rules in Dutch than there are in German. So whenever you go from German to Dutch, you're going to be like, oh, wow, this is easy. I can understand this. It's basically just different pronunciation, a little bit of grammar tweaking here and there. So I would recommend exactly backwards. Learn German first, then learn Dutch or Danish or whatever other language you want to include on there. Next one is an easy one. It's do Germans often get offended if non-native speakers speak with a rough accent or lots of errors, or what they put on here as broken German? I would actually say no. I've never encountered a time when a German person was like, oh man, your German is terrible. Why don't we just switch to English? I have had people who just switch to English. And this happens for a variety of reasons. One of them is just Germans know that they speak English well, and so they want to practice that. They want to show off their skills. They're like, I learned this in the gymnasium for 7 years, and I really want to show off that I can speak the language that you speak. And when they get the opportunity to speak English, they're just going to jump on it. This happens quite often in Germany, especially if you do have a little bit of an accent, whether that's an American accent or just a English accent of any kind. But if you have that accent, they're going to be tending towards just switching to English because it's easier for them than listening to you speak in whatever broken accent you might have. That being said, I personally don't like it when they do that, and so I would say back to them, ich bin in Deutschland und ich möchte Deutsch lernen. Könnten wir bitte Deutsch lernen, Deutsch sprechen? So like, I'm in Germany to learn German, so would it be okay if we continued in German? And then they'll probably just switch back to German and they'll be fine with it. And so just that gentle reminder to Germans that you're there to learn the language, they actually appreciate the fact that you're trying to learn German. Usually, yeah. So usually, like, Germans they won't be offended that you're speaking with a broken German or a bad accent or bad grammar or any of that. They will be quick to correct you, but generally this is coming from it's coming from a good place. They're excited that you're learning German. They are flattered that you're learning German, and a lot of the time they're just going to be like, why did you learn German? Because even they're confused. They're like, what? Why would you even bother? You are from America. No one there speaks German. And so, yeah, they're confused, but they're also flattered and they're excited about it. And yeah, I've never seen anybody who's offended because you spoke with an accent. And if they are offended that you have an accent, those are not the people you want to hang out with anyway, because they're jerks. So that's a pretty easy way to, yeah, it's a good way to find the people that you don't want to hang out with. Yeah, people who get offended by accents are terrible people. So xenophobia is real. All right, so I have the questions that I had ahead of time I have answered, so that leaves me with the questions that I have over here in the live chat. See what we got going on over here. Is it better to practice? This is from Giorgio from before the live stream actually even started. Is it better to practice speaking German when you know a certain high enough level of vocabulary, or is it better to start with a small level of vocabulary? I would say start speaking German as soon as you are comfortable doing so, but speaking German does not mean that you are necessarily coming up with these things that you are speaking in German, if that makes sense. So I don't mean having a conversation with a native speaker like week 1 of German class. That's probably not going to work out. But if you want to read in German, you can start at 0, having no knowledge whatsoever. I've got some books back here. Lots of books, in fact. Yes. For those of you who are like, oh no, he's been exposed, he's wearing shorts. Yes, of course I'm wearing shorts. It's like 105 degrees outside today. For those of you who are in Britain and all of the places that use the metric system, it's basically, I saw 2 hobbits walk past my house this afternoon, and they were asking me where the volcano was because they thought they were in Mordor. I'm not saying it's hot, but it's up there. But anyway, books. You can buy books like this one, which is Nachbar Nummer 5. Of course, I've got links to my Amazon page if you're really wanting to support the channel and stuff. This is linked up on my Amazon page. And yeah, I do get a little bit of commission for that, but it's a fantastic book. It's one of the few times that I've actually read an entire series of books for German learners as a not German learner. I'm not necessarily still learning the language after all of this time. But Nachbar Nummer 5 is by Angelika Bohn, and this one is aimed at the A1 level. There's also this other one, which is also A1. This is Der perfekte Trick. There's one for A2 level, there's another one for the B1 level, another one for B2, and I've literally read every book that Angelika Bohn has ever put out. And I have had several times now where she's sent books to me, and because I talk about her books all the time on this channel, and so she sent me books in the past as giveaways and stuff like that. I'm just a huge fan of her work. It's not even that I'm getting sponsorship or anything like that. It's just I really like her books. So you can start with books like those. You can also start with like the Dino Lernt Deutsch series, which is by Andre Klein. He has a series of books. I think there's like 13 of them now, all following the same character. So you can get to know Dino from the very beginning of A1 and then just keep on going all the way through all of your German learning. But speaking the German is what we were talking about. That's where this conversation started. Basically, I would say start by working on pronunciation and start by building that vocabulary, speaking it out loud. So read the book out loud whenever you pick up Angelika Bohn's book, and you can say, "Das stimmt nicht, sagt Herr Jäger. Sein Gesicht und sein Kopf sind ganz rot." And then you may have to look up words, and you're going to have to, stop and translate in your mind and stuff like that. But speaking it out loud is going to help with your pronunciation. Once you get your pronunciation, while you're reading this book, you're also going to be building your vocabulary, building your grammar, and from that, you'll be able to have a better conversation. Once you get past like A1, you should be speaking to someone, whether that is another German learner or if you go to a Stammtisch in your local area. So Stammtisch I've made a video about before as well. Basically, it's a group of German learners who get together on a regular basis in your area, and they speak German to each other. There are conversation hours. I've got videos on my channel about places that you can go for that kind of thing. There's one that I got a partnership with, which was Deutsch Gym. Basically, I have like an affiliate thing for them if you want to check them out. There's a older video on my YouTube channel for that. But yeah, speak with someone. That's what I'm getting at. Even at the very low level, you should be able to have a conversation of like, "Guten Morgen, wie heißt du?" And I've already forced my German 1 students to do this. We started school last week. Wednesday was our first day of school, and my students in German 1 are already having those conversations of, wie heißt du? Wie alt bist du? Later this week, they're going to get wo wohnst du? They're going to get classroom phrases. They're going to get all of that kind of stuff. And once they get past day 1 in German class in my classes, they automatically start having those conversations, and I force them to speak with each other and also with me throughout the class period, just to practice as much as possible. And yeah, conversation practice should be at the very beginning of it. There's polyglots out there like the guy who runs Link, the LINGQ website. Fantastic website. I just disagree with the approach that he has to learning languages. He believes that there should be a silent period, so you're absorbing as much of the language as possible and then wait until you actually produce anything. I prefer to start producing on day 1, and yeah, you should be able to have a conversation right after you start learning. Let's see. Michael asked a long time ago, if I want to work in Germany in a white-collar position such as sales or marketing, what level of German should I be proficient in? Pass the B1 or B2 test is okay. I would say B2 would probably be better, and then maybe even C1, especially in the marketing area. I've seen advertisements or like translations of things in Germany where it's just like, I wouldn't have used that word. I gave an example today in my German classes of dieser Zug endet hier, which is the thing in Berlin. Every day I had to listen to this on the U5 train in Berlin. It stops in Alexanderplatz, and every day it would say this train stops here. But in the German version, it says dieser Zug endet hier, which is this train ends here. In the English version, they translate it as this train terminates here. And my American brain looks at the word terminates and thinks Terminator, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And so I didn't think of it as like this train is no longer going to be continuing on past here, and it will go in the opposite direction if you stay on the train. I didn't think that way. I understood when everyone else got off the train, that seemed to make sense. But, you know, as a young moron, I didn't know what they were talking about with the word terminate. Because I was just thinking this train ends here. I got the German, I didn't understand the English. So those kinds of translation errors are very niche in the way that they work. And for that reason, I would say that you have to be closer to that C1 level, especially if you're getting into marketing. I think sales is probably a little bit easier because you're having that conversation a lot more. You're doing a lot more interacting with people, and that's very much a more B1, B2 level kind of thing. C1, C2 level, we're talking like academic conversations and that kind of thing. There are German native speakers who would not pass a C2 exam. I can guarantee you that. There are English native speakers who would not pass a C2 exam. If I gave a C2 exam for English to my high school students right now, most of them would fail. Because C2 is such a giant leap of information. I'm not even sure that I would pass a C2 exam in English or in German for that matter, because it's such a high bar to reach. But C1 is definitely doable, and C1 is where I would say you need to be if you're going into marketing. B2 is probably okay if you want to go into sales. If you're going to a German university, they want you to be at the B2 level. That's usually where their exams are kind of aimed at. I would say, yeah, B2 is a bare minimum for any of those types of jobs. Let's see. Are you able to do live with people that has a hard time pronouncing words, aka long words? So am I like pronouncing long German words in this? Long German words in the Google. Hey, look, I'm not ranking for any of those things. 7 hilariously long German words from I Am Expat. We have Kraftfahrzeug Haftpflichtungsversicherung. Okay, this is a good example of what we need to be talking about here. Don't sell my personal information. Yes, confirmed. Go away. Long German words. So, long German words are only long because they're a bunch of little words that are smushed together. If you can identify the little words within the big words become little words next to each other. That's all it is. So it's the same thing that happens in the English, because this word here, for instance, is motor vehicle liability insurance. If you count the letters that are in there, it's more than the German version. There are more letters in the English word that we're using here than there are in the German word that we're using here. The difference is that the German word is smushed together without a space in between. The English word, we call it a compound noun, and it's still together with all of the other things, but we put spaces in there because English native speakers don't know how to read, and so we have to put spaces there for people's brains to absorb it. But what you can do is insert those spaces on your own. So the first one here, for instance, has Kraft. Kraft is just strength or power or something along those lines. That's one word that we have here. So the first syllable stops at Kraft. Kraft. Then we have Fahr. Fahr comes from the verb fahren, which means to drive. Zeug is a thing. It's generally a bunch of things together to make a stuff. That's what Zeug is. So in this case, it's a driving stuff. That would be a vehicle. So Fahrzeug, Kraftfahrzeug. Then we have Haft. Haft is anything that you are forced to do. Pflicht is also anything that you are forced to do. This is a requirement. So forced to do, requirement, Versicherung, which is insurance. Versicherung is the one that is the most difficult to pronounce off of all of those things that they have listed here. Again, I would break it apart. We have Ver, which is one syllable, Ver. Then sicher, or just sich, and then and then Versicherung. Versicherung. Haftpflichtversicherung. Kraftfahrzeug Haftpflichtversicherung. Break it apart and it will make a lot more sense to your brain. Like this one, everyone's favorite one of Tschechisches Streichholzschächtelchen. I'm curious to see what this Tschechisches Streichholzschächtelchen. No, they give an article about internet. Oh, that's unfortunate. I was really hoping they linked to my video. I have a video that's me and a bunch of other German YouTube channels saying the words Tschechisches Streichholzschächtelchen, this thing right here, which is a small Czech matchbox. Again, if you take all of the words that are together in the English version, small Czech matchboxes, you'll end up with that. Also, this is incorrect. Matchboxes is plural. This word is clearly neuter. It is not plural. And I know that because the adjective ending here of es is only there if it is a neuter noun and not a plural one. If it's plural, it's just an e. Grammar nerd side note of the day. Again, I would break this apart. We have Streich. Streich is the word for strike, or in this case, like striking a match. That's how you strike a match. That's Streich. Holz is wood. A Streichholz is wood that you strike. It's basically the word for a match in German, Streichholz. A Schachtel is a box, but when you add an umlaut and a chen, it becomes a little box, so this is a little Czech matchbox. Schachtel becomes Schächtelchen. So we end up with Streichholzschächtelchen. I've practiced that way more than I should have, so what I would say is, again, break it apart. Don't get overwhelmed by the fact that this word is, 47 letters long or whatever it is. Think of the smaller words that are in between there and break it apart from there. Even in things like Rindfleischetikettierungsüberwachungsaufgabenübertragungsgesetz, I can say it without having to think about it because I've used this as an example in classes all the time. But, again, if you go through and break it apart, Rind, that's beef. Fleisch, that's the meat part of the beef. Etiquette, that's Etikettierung, is the whole word here, but that's etiquette, the way that you do something. Überwachung, that's the oversight of something. Aufgabe, that's the work, so the oversight of the work. Übertragung, the way that something is carried out. And Gesetz, the word for a law. All of that is stuff that we can break apart word by word. If you can break apart by syllable and it's not a full word yet, try the next syllable. If that makes a full word, then you can stop and be like, okay, I know what that word is, and I can practice just that part, and then move on to the next part, and the next part, and the next part, and the next part. Practicing German words that are really long like this is helpful for whenever you're reading sentences as well, because you're always thinking about the next part as you're pronouncing one part. So yes, I can't do an actual live lesson about how to pronounce long German words, but I can Google a website that has a list of them and then read them out loud with you so that you can kind of get examples of how to fix this. Can you recommend the Everything All Essential German book? I have not read that one, so no. I don't recommend anything that I haven't personally read. So I don't know that book. I can't say if it's good or bad or in between. No idea. There's Michael here, who's been a Deutschlerner on my YouTube channel for a little while. He's got the German thumb here, which means, I believe that means that he's been here for a month. So welcome aboard, Michael. Sorry I missed that whenever that popped up before. Let's see. What is the best way to test your fluency level? New learner and watcher, thank you for your videos. Taking a placement test soon after 3 months of self-learning. Wish me luck. So that's Caleb. So good luck, Caleb. Let's see. Oops, hit my microphone. Whoopsies. Online German proficiency test. If you do that, there is a thing from the Goethe Institute, which is actually a really good test. Just go there, hit start, and it will test your German knowledge. What I would say is that this one does not do a good job of like honing into exactly what your level is, but it'll give you a good approximation. So it starts off with, you're reading a newspaper advertisement, select the best response for each question. So It says, wo können Sie mit dem Ticket reisen? Die November-Sommerfahrkarte können Sie bequem online buchen für Fahrt, bla 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 bla. Gewünschte Reisedatum. Es gilt also für eine einfache Fahrt in der zweiten Klasse. Dezember reisen Sie im Fernverkehr für 29 Euro quer durch Deutschland. So, it says in Deutschland und im Ausland oder nur in Deutschland oder nur in ihrer Nähe. I would say it says quer durch Deutschland, so that is all across Germany. So I would say B. And then bis wann können Sie reisen? Bis 11. Dezember, so Mitte Dezember ist da. Man bezahlt 29 Euro für eine Fahrt hin und zurück, eine Fahrt in der zweiten Klasse und viele Fahrten an einem Tag. I would say eine Fahrt in der zweiten Klasse, because it says here eine einfache Fahrt in der zweiten Klasse. For those of you who don't know, einfache Fahrt means a one direction trip, and zweite Klasse is second class, so you're not riding in first class seats. But if you want to pay 29 euros for that, that's what that is. But you go through here and answer questions. Based on your first answer, it will tell you your next question, and it will kind of tailor this to make sure that it's asking you the right questions. Let's just go false, correct, false for the next one. Answer B and B. I'm just going to try and go through this as fast as I can just to see when it happens whenever I get all of the things, probably wrong answers if I had to guess, because I really doubt that they're just going to pick the same random answers that I am. But you see the little progress bar up there at the top telling you what's going on. This is actually a good example because it has like audio tests and it also has text that you have to read. This is probably very similar to the kind of exam that you're about to take. I'm just going to hit continue and not actually answer the questions from here on out. Just keep hitting continue. It's probably going to tell me I'm at the A1 level, even though I got fluent on the first one. So yes, I answered 9 out of 30 questions correct. Incorrectly answered 8 of them, and 13 of them I just skipped. And then if you want to learn with the Goethe Institute, there's that on there. Let's see. If you're planning on enrolling at the Goethe Institute, you should probably be at the A1 level for young people. Blah, 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 blah. So yeah, you have a good foundation in German. Anyway, it's a decent test. It will tell you at the end how good your German skills are and that kind of thing. There was another one I tried a few years ago, trying to find out which one it was. I think it's this one, the Deutschlerner website. Yes, from Actilingual. I'm going to have to move my camera out of the way so you can see their website, but deutsch-lernen.com. This website's test that they have on here is actually decent. You can do the short test or the long test. I always recommend the long test for any of these kinds of things because the long test will have a better chance of getting your actual level rather than the short test. And you can go through this, but it does take a while to go through this test because the long test is in fact a long test. I know, shocking. But yes, there are a couple of websites that you can go to for online tests and stuff like that. I would recommend either the Goethe Institute or this deutsch-lernen.com. Both of them actually do a relatively good job. I've tested both of them on multiple occasions. It's been quite a while since I've been at the Actilingual website, but yeah, it's a decent test. And yes, again, Caleb, good luck on your exam. Links that I posted here. There's Tango's super like thing that they did. Sales and marketing thing. I actually answered that for you. Thank you, Michael. Unterschied zwischen ändern und verändern. Not much. The difference between ändern and verändern. Ver usually makes things to go to a level of finality of sorts. So it takes it above and beyond. Instead of just ändern, which would mean like you tweaked something, you changed a little thing, verändern is to change everything. So there's a song by Revolver held that this song is Ich werde die Welt verändern, I will change the world. It's verändern because he's going to change everything about the world rather than just Ich werde die Welt ändern. It's basically like I'm going to change the world, but I'm going to change like this one little thing. Like I'm going to get rid of koalas and replace them with pandas and then put pandas where koalas are. Yeah. That would be confusing, but if that's the only one little thing that you're tweaking about the world, that's just the word ändern. If you're changing literally everything about the world, that's verändern. I would consider what Doctor Strange did in the last Spider-Man movie. I would consider that to be verändern because he effectively erased Spider-Man from everyone's memory, or at least Peter Parker from everyone's memory. So that's what I would say is the difference between ändern and verändern. If he wouldn't have verändert everything, we wouldn't have the incursions we are having in the multiverse right now. So thank you for that nerd side note of the day. My dream is to work as a German airline pilot, such as Lufthansa. I guess you need C1 level at least. Yeah, you're going to need sea level for being a pilot, mostly because you're going to have that extra terminology on top of the normal vocabulary you have to talk about all of the airline things. I'm not a pilot, so I can't give you the vocabulary for this. I don't know enough vocabulary about it, but you can't just say, drück den Knopf, like push the button. You're going to have a little bit more vocabulary for specialized vocabulary, and that's definitely going to be more C1 plus even level for that. Yeah. Tuttered Boast says their German teacher passed away from COVID. I'm sorry to hear that. That really sucks. And then the Rammstein stuff. Du hast mich gefragt. Du hast mich gefragt und ich habe nichts gesagt. Let's see. Am Tag, als Conny Kramer starb bei Julian Werding. Yeah, never heard of that song. Sorry, I have no frame of reference for that. This person says I'm the best German teacher out there, so thank you for not watching anyone else's YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure I'm not the best one out there, but I do appreciate that you think that. But yeah, thank you for that. Your humor makes me want to learn more German from you all the way from India. I actually have a really large fan base in India for some reason. I've looked at my YouTube stats, and there are a lot of people from India watching my YouTube channel. If you go through like the list of countries, it's like United States, Germany, and then India. So it's kind of impressive there. PL says that they are at the A2 listening level. How do I improve my listening, as it is too fast for me and I'm unable to keep up with everything? I have been told to listen to the text and write it out in German. I would say the easiest way to help your listening comprehension is to listen more to things. I know that's a really lame answer, and I'm sorry for that, but basically if you can spend more time listening to German music, listening to German podcasts, listening to German news, or any of those kinds of things. Start with something that has a visual aid to it. So whether that be subtitles in your native language or subtitles in German, or like news usually has some sort of image that goes along with the thing. Get some sort of context to go along with that, and that will help a long way with your listening comprehension. But eventually you're going to have to switch over to something like an auditory podcast or something like that, where it's just listening, because on the exams that they give, it's just listening. Back in the olden days, they would have a little tape recorder. They would push the button for that. The tape would play the audio for it, and then it would end, and that was all you heard. I took the test DAF a few years ago. It's the exam that you can take in order to study abroad in Germany. I took it because I'm doing an online master's program that's through a German university, so I had to pass that exam. I did pass, by the way, so I'm super proud of that. So I do know a little bit of German. But anyway, so I took that exam, and what I was surprised with is that the audio part of it for the listening comprehension, they only played it once. So like, if I were doing anything in a class setting, I would play something once and then let people process it for about a minute, and then I would play it again. But that's not how they do it during that exam, which was super irritating to me. But it also does require you to actually listen during the audio, and if you didn't catch it the first time, it's gone. Which is how life is, really, and so that definitely helped out for getting that kind of subtlety there. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of listening to things. If you find something that has the text to it beforehand, so like most of my videos that are in German, fully in German, that is, they come with the text in German on subtitles. You can do that, or you can, become a patron on my Patreon page, or a Deutsch Club member on my course page here that I have pulled up on the screen just to have a visual aid that isn't someone else's website promoting Actilingual. But if you want to join there, they have anytime that I have a immersion lesson, so a listening comprehension thing, I give the script in German and English, and you can go and like read it through first and then listen, and your listening comprehension will go through the roof for that particular lesson. But you can also do it in the opposite direction, and you can listen to it only and think, okay, this is what I think they said, and write down what you think they're saying in your native language, and then go back through and read the German for real and see, how did I do? What did I listen to? Did I actually get the context of what the conversation is? Do I understand what's actually going on here? So there's kind of different ways that you can practice this. I'm actually planning on doing a video, actually a series of videos about how to improve your listening comprehension, how to improve your reading comprehension, how to improve your speaking skills, how to improve your accent. I'm planning on doing a series of those videos, but it's going to be probably November before that comes out. So anybody who's taking an exam before then, I'm sorry, but I'm going to eventually get around to a series of tips and tricks about how to get your German skills up to snuff. Let's see. Traveling into German-speaking countries, will B2 be good enough? I love the phrase of good enough. The question is, what do you mean by good enough? You can order food at A1. So you could say, Ich möchte das, in A1 level. That's good enough for the context of that conversation. Your waiter doesn't have to speak to you more than, they're going to walk up and they're going to say some gibberish to you in German. It's going to be too fast. You're not going to understand what they're talking about. But you can answer with you pointing at the menu and saying, Ich möchte das. And they will bring you whatever das is, right? So enough is kind of an odd word that I would say. I would say B1 is actually good enough to get you through most things, because my first trip to Germany was whenever I was in high school. I would not consider myself beyond like A1, A2 at that point. And at that point, I would say, I survived most of it because my German host spoke English to me all the time. But a lot of the things I could still like order food at a restaurant, and I could have general conversations, get through things that are kind of survival mode things. That's that A1, A2 level. Once you get past that in the B1 level, I would say that you can probably have about 80% of the conversations that you're going to have when you're traveling through Germany as a tourist. If you're doing like a study abroad, you're probably going to need that B2 level, but B1 is probably good enough to get through anything that you're going to do. If you're, staying in Germany for 2-3 weeks, something like that, B1, you'll be fine. The age-old question of how much time will it take a beginner to reach B1 with all of the stuff. There is a list of how long does it take to get to a certain level in German. How long to learn German, and it's the FSI is the name of the group that puts this number together. The FSI actual website is terrible, and that's why even their own study is like 10th on the list of Google results. But FSI courses are, where they're basing their information, but it has a breakdown of how many hours it's supposed to take. Theirs are broken into units here, which is why no one goes to their website for that. It goes to Story instead, storylearning.com. But it basically says 30 weeks or 750 classroom hours. That's the number that you really want to pay attention to. There we go. Now you can actually see it on screen. But 750 classroom hours to learn German. That's classroom hours. Objectively, one of the worst ways to learn a language is sitting in a classroom, listening to a teacher, and having basic conversations every once in a while. I would say you could probably cut that in maybe thirds, a quarter, something like that, a half, if you put your mind to it. So I would say, you know, 350, 400 were 350, 400 hours to do this. Now, if you're spending 10 hours a day learning German, your brain is going to lose the latter half of that. So you're going to get through the first like 2 or 3 hours, and your brain's going to turn to mush and remember nothing after that. Go away, polyglot, trying to teach me about the ways of how you learn 17 languages. So if you are doing it on your own, I wouldn't recommend more than 2 or 3 hours a day. And even then, I wouldn't do it all in one sitting. So 300 hours, you're talking 100 days, maybe 4 months. If you're super fast at it, you can get to B1 in 4 months. That's my mathematical equation for the day. If you are not super fast at it, I would say B1 in a year is a good goal. I would not push myself to the point where I want to get B1 in 100 days. That is theoretically possible. It's just not a goal that I personally can get to. I have 3 kids, I have a full-time job and a YouTube channel. I'm not going to get to the B1 level of Spanish in the next 100 days, okay? But if you are, you know, you're graduated from school, you're on summer break, and you're doing whatever, you got the summer to learn German, you could probably get to B1 by the end of the summer if you really, really put 3 hours of good learning per day for 3 months. Let's say nicht versus kein in the A1 level. I believe I have a video for that. It's been a while since I did that video, but yeah, I think I have a video about negation. Oh, look, views in the last 30 days. Oh, not channels. Keep going. Where's the search? There we go. Search button. Negation. Yes, I have a worksheet thing that I did forever ago that kind of explains it, but that's kind of an old video, even older video about puppets. That's from 9 years ago. Looks like I should probably do a new video about negation at some point. Sorry, it's been a little while. There's this video about nicht, and there's this video about kein that might clear things up. But the easy answer is kein is used in front of a noun, and nicht is generally not. It can be used in front of a noun, but it is very, very rare. So most of the time you're going to use kein followed by a noun. Anything other than that, just use nicht. That's the easy breakdown for how to use those two without going too in depth. Difference between Austrian and German accents. German in Austria has a lot more like kind of. I know that's a terrible stereotype, but it's got kind of a throatier sound to it, I want to say. I can't do an Austrian accent in German. I can do a Arnold Schwarzenegger impression, but that's about as far as I get in the English version. But the dialect has a lot more open vowel sounds, so lots more O and U and that kind of thing. Those kinds of sounds are more prevalent in the Austrian accent than they are in the German accent. And you'll even have that in southern Germany, and it's all kind of the same. Let's see. How do you pronounce the R? I'm having trouble pronouncing R as in br and fr and ch and r, all of that stuff. I have an entire video dedicated to the pronunciation of the R in German. German pronunciation R, and you will find consonant pronunciation. It's a whole 17 minutes long, but this video does a decent job of talking about, there we go. That video does a decent job of talking about the R in there. There are two ways that you can go about it, but the main one that I usually go with is actually something I stole from Katja from Deutsch für euch. I stole it from her pronunciation video about the letter R. It's if you start with the ch sound in the back of your throat, which is that that raspy sound that usually gets German or bad rap for being a harsh sounding language. That sound from the back of the throat, it's essentially a hissing cat sound, like the ch sound in ich. It's that same sound, but you're changing the amount of friction in the back of your throat. So you have that for that harsher ch sound, and then once you have that, add voice to it. So with a lot of sounds in German, you can go from voice versus no voice, and that changes things from like the difference between D and T would be D and T. The movement in your mouth is the same, but the difference is D or D has voice behind it and T does not. Same thing happens with G and K, so G versus K. Those two sounds are the same movement in your mouth. The difference is G has your voice and K does not. The same thing is happening with this versus So the CH sound is just and the R sound is that plus voice. So and again, I did not come up with that explanation. Katja from Deutsch für euch definitely gets credit for that because that's where I first learned it, for explaining how to do it. Obviously, I can do it. I just didn't know how to explain it to my students until I watched Katja's video. Because, yeah, Katja is awesome. We've met up a couple of times in person, and she is exactly the phenomenal person that you see on camera. She is the same amount of phenomenal whenever she's off camera as well. She's just a lovely human being in all respects. So, yeah. If you're not subscribed to Deutsch für euch, definitely go check out her videos, especially about pronunciation, but also just any of the things she does, because she's wonderful. So, yes. I think I've made it through all of the questions. Hey, I have next week the Goethe A2 exam. What's your advice for me? Take the practice exams. They have practice exams on Amazon that you can buy a paper version. The Goethe Institute's website has practice exams. Take those exams and take them seriously, because they actually do a really good job of preparing you for the real test. So do that. Let's see, I think I'm getting it, but it sounds more like the harsh CH. What do you mean by adding voice? Basically the and then you have, like, if you hold your hand like right here, you can feel whenever you're speaking, you can feel the vocal cords in your throat. You're trying to activate those vocal cords in addition to the sound. If you do the sound and have your hand on your throat, you'll notice it's slightly higher. It's not actually your vocal cords that the sound is coming from. It's slightly higher up. But your vocal cords is where you're supposed to be having the R sound come from. It's basically like an ah, but you can't do that while having the sound. So you combine and ah, and you end up with It takes practice. Just don't practice it too much, because you'll wear out your throat, and you'll have a sore throat the next day, and it'll be awkward for everyone involved. All right, I'm gonna get out of here. It's been way longer than I expected to actually be. In the exam, is it really important? Can't we just speak? Yeah, you can just speak. I don't have any purpose for taking an exam for German learning unless I'm going to study abroad in Germany, or I need a certificate for my work, or for my resume or something like that, for my CV. Otherwise, I really wouldn't take an exam for anything. If you are comfortable being able to speak German, just speak German. Yeah. So, all right, it is almost 9:30 here. I gotta get to bed. I have school in the morning, and yeah, what I would one last ask from all of you, if you look at my YouTube channel here, it says 199,000 subscribers. Last I checked, I needed like 250 more subscribers in order to get to 100 or 200,000. So it's up to you guys to get that to the end there. Let's see. Do I have the live version of this? 199,758. So close. if you could go ahead and find 242 people who want to subscribe to this YouTube channel, send my YouTube channel out to as many German learners as you possibly can. That would be greatly appreciated. I don't know when I'm going to do another one of these, but if you want me to do another one of these live streams, let me know. Just comment on either this video or other videos and say, hey, when's the next live stream? And I might work around to that. But yeah, I will see you in the next one.